Yes, my name is Sister Sharon Casey, and I entered the community in 1968 on September 7th. And yeah.
So how did you come to meet the sisters, and why did you enter the Institute?
Okay. First of all, I went to a public school in the first year of high school. And I think my father could see that I was not flourishing. And then one day I received this phone call from a grammar school friend, but not a very strong friend. And she said, "Oh, there's this great school in New York." I said, "My father's not going to let me go to New York." She said, "Yeah, it's right over the bridge. A lot of New Jersey students go over there from Teaneck, from Dumont, from..." So I said, I'll ask. And my father said, "I know where that school is. I could drop you off on my way to work." We were poor. We didn't have much. But we had a house. And he said, "Let's see what the tuition is," and all that. Okay. So I went for an interview, and they accepted me. And but I started in 10th grade. I had to go to summer school to make up one course that they had in the first year. And I think I began to meet the sisters little by little. Two of the most important people in this, when it comes to the sisters, Sister Patricia Spillane. She was my teacher a couple times. She was teacher of biology. No one ever failed biology. She was an extraordinary woman, extraordinary teacher. And she was very warm, strict, no nonsense, but really cared about the students. You know, there was no favoritism. There was just absolutely cared about the students, and she wanted them all to do well. And then I had her in senior year for religion. But I had heard her say before that God is love. And I thought, what? That's different. That's different. God is love. That's not something I ever heard before. I heard that, God's looking over us and God's measuring everything. But God is love, and I had a great desire to know God. I wanted to meet this God who was love. I often went to church. I loved to sing. In fact, I still sing. And so through the sisters, and then Sister Barbara Leonardo. Sister Barbara Leonardo challenged me to come up and give my speech and learn how to stand in front of others and show whatever homework I did, and it happened to be excellent. And little by little, these women had an effect on my lives. Not just those two. There were many other sisters there and lay teachers. But those two in particular, and Sister Patricia and Sister Barbara, later in religious life, came in and out of my life at different points. So that's where I met them. And
is there a why in this, or is it because you wanted to know God, or is...
Yes, I think there were two things that happened. Once when I was in second grade, I picked up a little boy. I was used to taking care of children, so I picked up a little boy who was in probably first grade, and I was second, and he fell, and he was crying, and I brought him to a teacher, and she said, "Oh, bring him over to Sister Frances." Now, these are the charity sisters. I didn't know what a sister was. I asked, how do I go there, how do I get there? And I watched her. In fact, I was mesmerized by the way she cared for this little boy. She put him on a chair, she rolled up his pants, and she kissed his knee. And I thought, when I'm big, I want to be like her. I want to treat children just like that, just like that. And that stayed inside of me. I didn't know what a sister was, but I wanted to be kind, or I didn't have the words for it, kind. I wanted to be like her, to treat children very well. And so that really started a path in my life. So the why is those two things. I wanted to teach, I wanted to be with children, and I wanted to find this God that was love, if it was true. You know, because they started to talk about Vatican II, but we didn't know what Vatican II meant.
You say you haven't had a realm of experiences, but I bet you have. Could you tell me a realm of experiences, where positions or kinds of work that you've done with the MSCs?
Sure. Yes, so I actually did become a Montessori teacher. It happened to be, I was at Cabrini College. I was ready to start my education. And then Sister Mary Lou Sullivan, who you, I'm sure, would know, came to me, and knowing my desire to have a different way of education, because Sister Regina Palomara showed me when I was a novice. I went to her class, and it was a completely different way of teaching. It wasn't Montessori, but she had her own way. She's a very creative woman. She had pillows on the floor, and she had the kids doing so many things, and I thought, that's the way I want to work with children, just like that. You know, treat them with more ease. Don't put them in a desk and strap them down. And so that's what I wanted to do, and Mary Lou knew. And so she said, Sharon, there's this special program, the International Montessori School in Ravenhill is offering Villanova and Cabrini the opportunity to do your senior year in Montessori education. It's the international, so you'll have to do international oral exams and written exams. And she said, would you like to do it? I said, yes. I went for the interview, and they said, fine, we'd love to have you, but don't take education courses. We don't want you to unlearn things that you've learned. So I just continued with liberal arts and did all the requirements and prepared myself for an extraordinarily difficult year, but very enjoyable. And then, so my first mission, I was told I was going to Seattle, and then, for some reason, they told me I was going to New Jersey. And I thought, what kind of missionary is that? Because I was from New Jersey. And, but I went to Kearney, New Jersey, St. Anthony's School. It was still, part of this number of students were still boarding there. They went home on weekends. And then the Montessori, we had 4 preschool classes and 3 primary Montessori classes. And I was given one of the classes. And my first year was so difficult. So much so that I really didn't like it. They asked me what color I wanted the room painted. And I said, yellow. I thought, okay, yellow. I came in with bright yellow shelves and bright yellow walls, and it was a small classroom, and I had children from 2.5 to 5-year-olds. None had been trained in Montessori. None. After 2 months of this, I allowed myself to let the voice inside of me come up, the truth. And I said, I don't like being a Montessori teacher. I don't like it. The kids, I found myself yelling, which I never wanted to do. You know, the kids couldn't teach each other, and that's the philosophy. The older ones teach the little ones, but they didn't know themselves. So what I did was I called this one teacher that I admired so much. Her name was Anna Mae Guida. And I asked her to please come and observe me, which she did. She came 4 days to observe me. And she said, just go and do your work. And at the end of it, she said, take Maria Montessori out of the classroom and put Sharon Casey in the classroom. And then I relaxed because the international school was very strict. The American Montessori program was not that strict. It was like you weren't allowed to touch the children, you weren't allowed to do this. And there were times where I had to hold a child on my back, and somebody else had their hand here, and somebody else had their hand here, and I was giving a lesson. So I had to learn how to do that, and I became Sharon Casey in the classroom. And that made all the difference in the world. So from Montessori, I was then coordinator of that program. And then Sister Petrina, who was principal, was being transferred, and she asked me to be principal of the school. She did have me as assistant principal while I was also teaching. So I did that. And then in my 4th year, my provincial asked me to go to the high school in New York to teach religious studies or theology. And I said, but I'm studying liturgy, and I'm almost finished. I was doing my master's, and she said, well, then you start over. You go to Fordham, and you just start over. And I said, I saw that the school was sinking, that it was a wonderful school. The children really excelled because non-graded, and they were the center of the room. And but I could see financially we couldn't make it, and I felt awful that we couldn't pay the teachers properly because they work so hard. And it really affected me, and I never liked being a principal. So she assured me, I said, I can't give a sinking ship to one of our sisters. That's wrong. That's just wrong. I saw cracks in the wall, and I said, it's wrong. And so she says, suppose that I find a sister that's willing to take a sinking ship. And I said, well, if that's the case, and she really understands that I feel more free than to go where I'm being sent. And that's very important to me, this whole concept of being sent. Because where there's a need, I say yes. It's very much part of our charism. It's very much Cabrinian. And it has led me through my life.
So tell me about that. I want to go right to this now. When you were called to go to Australia, you positioned it as where you were in your life and how you were called. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, at that point, I had been at the high school and I had done vocation ministry. And I was asked by my provincial to be on the provincial council. I wanted no part of it. I was leader of the campus ministry department, and I was also on the leadership team at the school, and it was beyond me. I said, no, I am not that kind of person to be on the provincial council. Well, she begged me, and I said, look, I will pray. So I took some days to pray, and I felt, I actually talked to her and said, why do you want me? What is it about me that you want me? And she said, I like the way you think. I like the way you approach things. So I prayed more. Then finally I said, okay. And truly, and during that time, when I was full-time, I think it was the first year she asked me to go to the Philippines. And that was wonderful. I went to do a visit there for her. And then another time, she asked me to go to Australia with Sister Catherine Gary. And I said, okay, sure, I'll do that. This is the second time I had been in Australia because she wanted me to go visit there. You spend 2 weeks there with the sisters because she couldn't do that kind of flight. And so I went, and the purpose was to be on the committee to interview the short list of candidates for the CEO position. And so that's what we went for. And it was very hot that year. Maybe it's often hot in March, I don't know. But I said, no, I have to go over to the chapel, because I knew the chapel was air-conditioned in the hospital. So I took all my papers, loads and loads of them on the different candidates. There were three shortlisted candidates. And as I went into the chapel, I reverenced the Blessed Sacrament as is normal. And there was a large Bible open in the back on a stand, a small ambo, if you will. And my eyes fell upon one passage. And I was accustomed to looking at Bibles, you know. You are my servant, it said. I brought you from the farthest corners of the earth. Don't be afraid. I will help you. Something, and it went on, and that was just like, I seriously couldn't move. I pictured the corners of the earth, and I said, I just stayed there for a minute. I don't even know how long, but I just stayed there. And I said out loud in the chapel, God, if you are really calling me, please, you have to confirm this. And I kind of shook it off, tried to shake it off, went into the prayer room and opened up my papers and started to read all of them. When I went back to the convent, Sister Catherine was in the kitchen, and I said, Catherine, may I speak with you? And the way she listened to me was with reverence. And she said, well, let's see. So this was, in fact, something to be paid attention to. That's how I perceived it. So I think God was training me to be across the world at the end, nearly the end of the earth. And yeah.
And just if you would tell me, what stage of life were you when that happened?
I was nearly 58. That was in 2008, and I was in October I would have been 58. And when I went back to America, I found it very difficult to get a visa. So I couldn't, when I finished my position on the council, which would have been in January or December that year of 7, it took me a long time to get a visa, probably because of my age. But anyway, they finally gave me some sort of a visa, but not the one we were looking for. And then we had to go to a lawyer when I got to Australia, and I received my permanent residency in less than 24 hours on the Feast of Our Lady of Grace, which was another sign to me that this is from God, Sharon. Be peaceful, I'm with you.
So now you enter the Institute. What did you understand, if anything, about the charism?
I never really heard the word charism when I was in high school, and if they ever used the word charism, it never penetrated my mind. I experienced the charism because in a number of my positions, I did mission integration on the side, and worked with the mission integration director. And the education of the heart, I often typed up the tenets of the education of the heart. And so I knew them by heart. And so I said, this is what I experienced. This is how the sisters taught us, with maternal solicitude and be sure that you're ready to answer to the authorities and treat every person, every student, every pupil, I think she used the word, according to their gifts and talents. So I experienced the charism. I never heard the word until I came into the order.
So now, today, you said 1950 you entered, 55?
68.
68, I'm sorry, I'm confusing things. Okay, so in those intervening years, how do you understand the charism now?
I understand the charism as something very vibrant and alive. Not easy. And nothing was easy for Mother Cabrini. And it's go where I send you. Go where I send you and do whatever is needed. I would shorten that, the charism. It's go and show love to the people, or be love. Be the love of Jesus. Spread the gospel. But even if you don't use words, show by your actions that this is the love of God. And so that's what I understand the charism to be.
Beautiful, and it goes full circle. So just a short one here, because you've lived in community.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Listen, I've lived in large communities and small communities, and for the last half a year, when I was in Australia, I was alone, except Sister Beatrice was next door, but she was in a different apartment, and we were in COVID. And I found out during that time, I don't like living alone. Definitely, I'm a community person. I don't find community easy all the time, for sure, because there's some different characters, different personalities. Some people are louder than others, and I'm very sound sensitive. But in a way, you're called to love people, and not everybody had the opportunity that I had, which was a profound gift that came to me in my early 30s, of knowing themselves, coming to know themselves. That's a wonderful gift the Institute offers us, but many of the sisters never had that opportunity. So we had to learn to live in community and learn different techniques, and sometimes we had workshops as in an assembly. It was hard, but also it was a joy. There were many, many moments of joy. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a moment, the most profound, the most life-changing, the one experience that touched your heart in your life?
Yes. There was a point in my life, actually, when I was principal. And I think the stress was quite difficult for me. I used to walk around the school saying, "Providence of the heart of Jesus, assist me." It was one of the prayers from Mother Cabrini. And I found myself feeling very sad and at times crying and not knowing why I was crying. And then one day my provincial came to see me. And she said to me, it was Sister Barbara Leonardo then, and she said to me, Sharon, if you continue feeling sad like this and sorrowful and crying and not knowing why, I think it's time for you to seek some personal work, some professional help. I'll tell you, Jean, I felt like a big plug was pulled out of me. And so much emotion came out of me. She left, and I think for hours and hours, I just cried in gratitude, because that was the gift the Institute was giving me to grow more, to come to know all that was inside of me and how I deal with it and how I can be with others. And it's a profound gift for which I'm eternally grateful.
Okay, but what would you describe? How would you describe your current ministry?
My current ministry is I am a presence. I am a presence in Australia. I go from campus to campus. I'm present to the staff. The past couple of years were very hard because I wasn't allowed in the hospital because of COVID. That was quite difficult. So I just tried to support my sisters. We have one sister that's in her 80s that she lives in an apartment. So I did that, and I was helping one of our sisters for 2 years learn English, and I gave up all my skills in Italian, and not all, but most of my skills in Spanish and Italian, so that I could help some of the sisters to learn English, because my rule was we speak nothing but English, and I don't mind going over something 20 times, but only English. So there were a number of sisters I was present there for, but the last sister, Sister Josiane Cabral Soares, she was from Brazil. She knew 2 other languages. She knew Italian and Spanish. And she got caught in COVID. So we lived 2 years together, and that was a help to me in COVID. And we invited this other woman that would have probably become homeless. It was one of Josiane's school classmates. So we invited her to live with us and eat with us, and we tried to help her as much as we could.
This is great. This is great. Just a couple more, okay?
Yeah.
You're doing great. I love it. So, what on your life as an MSC, the bearer of the love of Christ, have you found what have you found most fulfilling personally in this?
Well, I think personally, I need to go back to the Montessori, okay? Because it's very important. The model for a Montessori teacher is John the Baptist. It was the child must increase and we must decrease. The child is the center of the room. And I found that wonderful because, it just impacted the rest of my life. So I had opportunities in my, in Montessori, in all the ministries that I did. Especially the last one, the campus ministry. I did that for a number of years. And most of our students were Hispanic or Black. And we ran a number of different programs, morning prayer leaders, mission leaders, this and that, liturgical leaders. And this concept of letting them shine and pulling yourself away. And they would say to me, Sister, is that good? Is that good? And I'd say, well, what do you think? I want to do it again. All right, you do it again. But I wouldn't give them I would bring a tape recorder next time. I'd say, here, listen to yourself and you tell me. And to see them grow and shine and feel so happy. And even in Montessori, I remember this little boy never wanted to learn to read, and his mother was on my shoulder. And finally one day, he said, truck, 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 truck. He learned how to spell truck, and then he was off. So those moments, to see the children and the students, and even adults learning to read up at in church, and really to read as if they were reading to their grandchildren a story, and helping them to shine and helping them to be happy in doing it, gives me great joy.
How would you describe this wonderful life that you've had to a woman considering a vocation?
How would I describe it? It's been an adventure. It's been truly an adventure. Adventures always have high moments and low moments. You know, there's the sunshine as the pouring rain. If you're out on an adventure, if you're going mountain climbing, let's say, you have a bit of everything. And so just like a married person, just like anybody, even if they choose single life, it will be an adventure if they're really trying to live it.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to sing? Would you like to sing something?
Right now?
Yeah. You don't have to. I'm just asking. I know you talked about singing.
Yes.
You need not, but if you like to.
Jesus, Jesus, Son of the living God, have mercy on me. Jesus, Jesus, Son of the living God, have mercy.
Perfect. Okay.
Gracias. That's pretty good with it.